Hello. We got Chris and Peter on here so far. Both on mute. Hey guys, how's it going? Hello?
Good, and yourself?
Yeah, not bad, Chris. Thanks for joining.
No problem. I just got ordered my M2 and got it over Prime Day.
Oh, right on. Nice. Did you get it in yet?
No, that's why I'm on here. I have a question. So I also got the 15-foot chains,
Mhm.
but I can't find the frame documentation for the large frame, just the standard.
Mm.
I believe
Yeah.
I've got to have like a longer 2x4s, correct?
Yeah. So the 2x4, the top beam would be a 12 foot instead of a 10 foot. The big difference here, the only real difference other than that is that you're going to have a different location to hammer in your nails for your chain slack on that 2x4. We are currently building out that guide for the XL frame, but you can find. Have you been on the Maslow Gardens yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so what I would do is get on the Maslow Gardens, and there's going to be some good information there for where to mount chain slack for a 15-foot chain setup.
Okay.
And that's really the only variance. Everything else, you can use the existing frame assembly guide that we use, and it'll work out great for you.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. And is it Peter or Pete?
Either one.
All right, how's it going, man?
Wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm filling in here right now. We might have some other folks from the team joining, but co-founder, and happy to help. What can I help you with today, Peter?
I'm just here to see what I can get for information. I haven't even unpacked my M2 just yet, but I've got everything I need to make the frame. I'm just looking to make space in the garage first.
Right on. Okay, great. Well, we've got. So I'm in our team office, our company office right now. We only moved in a pretty short time ago, so this is our first. We're still getting moved in and everything, but we've got a setup up front that's got the laser. I don't know if y'all joined the laser event earlier this week, but we got that laser set up there still. So I can take you all for a tour around that unit a little bit if you want, or yeah, just here to help answer any questions we got. No big plans for the day right now.
Where's your office located now?
We're in Springdale, Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah, where are you all out of?
I'm currently in Austin, Texas, but I grew up I grew up in northeastern Arkansas around Batesville.
Okay, yeah, right on. I'm from Dallas originally. Got some friends down in Austin too. What about you, Pete?
I'm not that far from you. I'm just outside of Little Rock, but I'm moving up towards Russellville next year.
No joke.
Yeah.
Here we go.
May I come pay you a visit?
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to get it to where we can really start hosting in-person reviews of the frame, right? As things start getting a little less crazy around the world. So, and Pete, what do you have? You have an M2 as well?
Yes.
Okay, and you said you hadn't unboxed it yet, but you're getting ready to. Just trying to learn some information.
Yeah, I didn't want everything all spread out until I was ready to actually connect.
Yeah.
I've downloaded Makerverse, but I haven't gotten into anything yet. So this is literally my first introduction to any kind of CNC type stuff.
Sweet. Well, I'll tell you what.
How friendly is the program?
Do what?
How user friendly is the program?
Makerverse?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the overall requirements of Makerverse, once you get in the rhythm of it, are pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of steps to it. What we're working on right now is kind of resolving a little bit that is a kind of, I don't want to say confusing, but yeah, not quite super intuitive. So like a couple of the buttons you may go like, well, I think this is supposed to do that, but it does things slightly different. So we're kind of tweaking a few things. It's got a little bit of that in it, but overall the use case, like once you go through the calibration widget, get set up, it's pretty straightforward what you do. You upload your file into it, you jog your sled to wherever you want to run the project from on your workspace, and you say go. And that's the use case of it. So there's, in terms of design and G code creation, you'd need to use something like an easel or a Carbide Create if you're going to make your own files. But that's also pretty easy. So are you familiar with like SVGs or any other file? Okay, yeah. So you just upload your SVG through easel, and just give it the, the information you need around what kind of bit you're using, what kind of material you're using, and then how fast your machine can go, which we've got all that information in the setup in the guide. Plug it in and it pumps out the G code, and then you just drop that into Makerverse. So Makerverse is just there to calibrate your machine and then press play, essentially.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
easel, is that just a regular download then?
Yeah, so Easel's a web-based platform through Inventables, so the Xcarve, right? They've raised, at this point, I want to say they've raised $15 million to run Easel to date. So we're working on a version of our own that would allow you to allow Makerverse to be your design software location as well, or your G-code creation component of it. But for now, we just recommend going through like the free version of Easel, which is just easel.inventables.com.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is this is a really good version of, well, my wife has a Cricut machine. So kind of stuff, transferring it to SVG, uploading it, and she just cuts out a lot of vinyl.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. This is a high tech or high powered Cricut essentially, and that's really, honestly, that's a great way of describing it, because that's really where we're trying to take this product, right? So I was an original supporter of the Maslow Kickstarter when it came out. Like I saw this thing and I was like, holy cow, I can run a CNC huge for cheap, right? Like I'm thinking of all the furniture things that I'm going to build. It's basically said I'm going to be a local IKEA was my idea. And and so then I bought it, setting it up. And my partner, Chris, called me and goes, "Can I buy that Maslow from you?" Because I was moving to New York at the time. I was like, "I guess, but what do you want?" And he's like, "Well, they don't sell them anymore." I was like, "Well, that's crazy. Let's call them up and see if we can manufacture it for them ourselves." Because we both had experience sourcing and things like that. So we called them and we're like, "We're huge fans, would love to carry on the production of it." And he was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So we've been iterating on the Maslow ever since. It's been a blast. But yeah, where we're wanting to take it is to just say, why does CNC seem to require, a second mortgage on your house and an associate's degree in mechanical engineering, right? Like it's crazy. Yeah, it shouldn't require that. So everything we're doing is here to make it more accessible to more people. So, we like to say you can stop pinning and start making things. Right.
Yeah.
Who did we just have join? See an iPhone emblem here. On mute. Okay. All right. Well, I can take you all around the frame a little bit, give you some pointers on what's really important when you're setting up your frame, what's less important, some tips and tricks for when you're setting up your first project, things like that, if that would help. Sound good?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Cool.
I do have one more question about the bricks and the weight. If I wanted to use like some extra dive weights, is there a point where it's too much weight, or is there sort of a sweet spot?
Yeah, you definitely, I mean, these drive chains are rated at over 500 kilograms each. So you're not going to break it. And these worm gear motors are extremely robust. They're originally designed for industrial use in like ATMs and things that are made to, so the machine could literally tear itself apart if you were to just send a drive command through the roof kind of thing. So weight isn't going to be a big deal for it, but you really don't need more than, 10, 12, 15 pounds on there.
Okay.
So the big thing about your weight is making sure that it's going to stay closer to the sled. You don't want it hanging up high or far away because that can cause the sled to tilt. Right. I got it up here. And you can see we still got that that thing up from the live event. But yeah, so again, these are standard 5-pound bricks. And if you've got, do you guys both have the 2021 model, or do either of you all have the 2021?
I got the 2021. Yeah.
Sweet. All right, great. So they'll come with these brick straps, right? Really, really easy to use. This is a updated design versus the 2020 model, which uses those flat metal straps, which are just a little bit more finicky and not easy to take the bricks off while, quick and remove them out and then take your sled down. So this is a better change to make it a little safer and to just make it a little bit more user friendly. But yeah, so you'll see that, we got the bricks mounted low and close to the frame or to the sled, right? That just makes sure that the sled is less likely to wobble, which you really don't want. That causes bit deflection.
Got it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do a quick tour on the frame here. If there's ever a time, actually, I'm going to set this. Would be a good place to set this. Let's see if we can put it over here. All right. Actually, that should work out pretty well. Can y'all hear me okay? Oh, we got Mike G on. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for joining. The rest of the folks in the office, sorry, I'm going to be a little loud for a second. Mike, I'm just going to give him a rundown, but please, so Mike is our tech support specialist. If you have any issues while you're getting calibrated, something's just not working the way you expected it, Mike is the guy. He's going to help you out. But I'll give you a rundown on the new frame design and give you some insight into why we changed it from like the old Maslow version and just some key tips and tricks that I use to make sure that you get up and running as quickly as possible. So the first thing you'll see on this one is that it's 4 small pieces of particle board rather than one big 4x8 foot sheet of ply as the waste board. There's a few reasons for that. One is just some people don't have a truck. So we wanted to make it so that more people could access the frame. The other thing that's going to allow you to do is have clamp points all around your frame, right? So a lot of people build that into their 4x8 foot already. So this was just an easier way to go about it. Additionally, with the price of wood right now, 4 2x4 foot sheets of particle board are cheaper than 1 4x8 foot sheet of ply. So that was just about a $25 savings. So thought we'd add that in. It's also just easier to set up and everything. So the other thing that we did with this version is we changed the way that you go about the caliber, or you go about measuring your distances. So something that's really, the 2 key setup components that are really, really, really critical are making sure that your motors are offset the distance that you say they are, and making sure that your distance between that middle of that motor sprocket right up here and then the top of your waste board, that vertical line, is precisely what you say it is. This machine runs on a lot of trigonometry. So it's unlike a traditional gantry CNC, which is just up 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, right? Depending on where you are on the board, each motor has to move a slightly different amount. So if it thinks it's a foot higher than it is, you're going to get those kind of bends or arcs to your straight lines because it's moving more or less than it actually should, right? So making sure that when you're going through that calibration process, that you are absolutely spot on with those frame measurements is going to help make the rest of it way less of a pain. The people who end up taking forever to calibrate are the ones who try to rush through the frame setup, and the ones who really get the frame set up really nicely buttoned up, level, and the right length are the ones who just plow right through the calibration process. Mike, is that kind of fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right, so I've got so this is, Chris, this is what I was talking about with you. Where this mounts is going to be the big key for your 12-foot top beam. So Mike, Chris has the 15-foot chains, and he was asking if we have any information on the variants for that XL frame setup yet. Do you have anything that you use or you reference for folks trying to do the 15-foot chain setup?
Not right now. I only have the 11-foot chains right now, so I haven't been using that. But I can look for some more info on that.
Yeah. So Chris, if you want to just shoot an email to support@makermade.com, that'll go straight to Mike.
Okay.
But yeah, just the real big thing, aside from taking this from a 10 foot to a 12-foot top beam, this is likely going to move in a little bit farther once you have that top beam. So the key really, and honestly, it's not like you're not gonna kill it or anything. The key is just making sure that this spring here always has tension to it. So if you say you put in your nails, right? You put in your 12-foot top beam, you put in your nails, you hang everything, go through the instructions, set the sled in the middle, and you start jogging it around, right? If you get to a point where you're up high on the frame and the top spring's really sagging down, or you get down towards the bottom and that thing looks like it's about to overextend itself, then you know you need to adjust where your nail is, right? If it's sagging down, then you need to pull that slack out of it and pull that nail back out a little bit. And if it's getting down the bottom and overstretching, then that means you need to bring that nail in a little bit, feed it a little bit more slack.
Got it.
Okay. But yeah, that's nothing that's gonna really harm anything, right? In terms of like your overall accuracy. If that spring starts to sag though, that can really kill your accuracy at the edge. Let's see.
So for the 12-foot top beam there, Patrick,
Yeah.
a lot of people have been saying that 10 over, 1 up.
10 over, 1 up.
10 inches over, and then 1 inch up from the bottom.
Okay, so
So I know the old traditional one with the 10-foot top beam.
Yep.
It was 6 over, 1 up, and people have been saying that 10 over and 1 up with the 15-foot chains. I haven't tested that, but that's what I'm hearing. So that sounds right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, because what we got here is about that on this 10-foot top beam.
Yeah, there you go.
So I would say then 10 to 14 inches, Chris. And then when we say 1 up, it's a 2x4. So 10 inches over, 1 inch up, right? It's going to put you right smack dab in the center of that 2x4 foot top beam, or 2 inch by 4 inch top beam. Sorry. But yeah, so 10 inches to maybe up as much as 14 inches would probably do you perfect.
Okay.
Casey, thank you. And if you all haven't met Casey, you all need to look at his store on the website. He does some great dust collection options. He's one of our absolute power users in the owners group. So he's a wealth of knowledge. Yeah. Any other questions on the machine so far? I'm trying to think. Casey or Mike, guys, what do you all have?
Yeah,
This is Chris and Peter's first time through.
Yeah, I do notice that people are asking questions why the brackets are now on the outside of the top beam. Remember, they always mounted to the front. They're asking me if there's benefit to mounting it the way it is behind you, or should they mount it the old way? I mean, for me, whenever I do the calculations, I see easier setup doing what you've done right there. I mean, that's a heck of a lot easier, but I don't see any functional issue with it. You know what I mean? So I've been telling them, hey, if it works the way you have it right there, I think that's in the new instruction manuals, is to mount behind the bracket and then mount the bracket to the wall. That would have been easier on my setup, a long time ago. I said, hey, do it. It works.
Well, and the so two big reasons. So one, the bracket really is meant to be used that way. As you know, Casey, it can be hard to get that thing mounted the way we had it originally, right? So this is just an easier way to mount it. But the real big advantage of this, so people start making their unistrut frames, right? Because they want that rigidity. But if you've got this bracket, you got this 2x4 here on the inside of that, what that bracket actually does is when you mount that bottom screw in, it ratchets that thing down, right? So it's going to hold this thing as solid as that unistrut frame. Zero flex here whatsoever. It's really great. So that's really helpful. The other reason we've done that is because, so the old Maslow frame was really staged for thick material. So people were using it for a lot of thick foam cutting. We're not getting a ton of users doing that. So this new setup actually creates a much smaller gap between like the angle of the top beam and the location of the wakeboard, if that makes sense. That's important because it allows you to lower your ring on your sled closer to the sled. And just like with the weight, we want it to be close to the sled. We want the ring to be down close too. The closer that ring is to your actual sled, the less chance it has to wobble, right? The less chance you have for bit deflection. And so the smoother, the butterier the cut. So all of that is to make this more accurate, reduce bit deflection, like case, just like the new 2.4 or the 2020 Z-axis gantry here is made out of bent steel, right? It's made to reduce bit deflection and make those cuts a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
Oh, Casey, we're working on your laser, by the way.
Okay.
Huh? Oh, yeah, Casey, 71 or 91 millimeter clamp.
Either. I got them both.
You got them both?
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever we have extra. Be great. Cool. All right, we got Dustin, Lauren on here as well. Hey guys, how's it going?
Morning.
Morning. How can we help y'all today?
Somebody else can go. I'm just kind of hanging out right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Dustin is our traditional lurker. He likes to sit and listen in until something comes up, then he'll pipe in.
I soak up all the information so I can learn as much as possible.
Yep. And you know what? And that's very good because there's
That's
a guy
right.
named David. There's a guy named David Mitchell that actually comes on here, and he's been lurking for a while, and I actually closed a sale on him last week. So we're with him, and he's been here on here for a few months actually. And so I got on the phone with him, and he actually pulled the trigger on it. And so get him going.
Awesome. Yeah, any questions on the laser as well? We got that. We still got that guy mounted in there, right?
Okay, on the laser then.
Yeah.
The 7 watt, is that correct? You got a 7 watt in there?
We only have a 2.8 watt now.
Oh, you only have a 2.8 watt.
We
Okay.
ended up ditching the 7 watt because it just wasn't meeting our expectations, and we didn't want to sell a more expensive unit for something that wasn't always going to do the job that we were wanting it to do.
Basically, it was doing the same thing as the 2.8 was doing. So why have a more expensive, 7 watt if it was doing the exact same thing?
So we've got, you can see here, we've got these cuts, these holes were made by the 7 watt, but it's only capable of doing that on 3-layer ply 1/4 inch. If you get, if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you're going to get a crapshoot of 3 versus 5-layer ply. And anytime we had a 5-layer ply, it would not make it through. It would just leave something like this instead, just a bunch of scorched earth. So, it's not easy for us to say like only works on 3-layer 1/4 inch ply. And, so we just wanted to go ahead and just launch the 2.8, which we felt was like a more honest representation.
But did you just say that was 1/4 inch plywood you were trying to cut there with it? Or is that
Yeah.
1 inch plywood?
So it's 1/8 inch, but this is point,
Okay.
1/4 inch ply is like 0.2. So
Okay.
that's what we were using.
Okay. I was like, if that thing is almost cutting through 1/4 inch, that's pretty darn.
It'd be doing that.
So then with 1/8 inch, is it multiple passes to cut through, or is it one pass to cut through?
And we've only got the 2.8 right now, which isn't going to cut anything. Well, no, I say that.
Okay.
It could cut. There's maybe some like thin, like veneer style materials or like paper or I can't foam. I can't remember what else, but yes, there's certain things it can cut through. It's all on the JTech website. So
Okay, maybe card stock, but definitely no wood.
yeah, I wouldn't say wood.
Gotcha.
Now we are looking at like at doing a 15 watt option in the future, but we have to really test that unit out. It's around here somewhere. Really have to be thorough in how we test that unit out. So that's no timeline for that. Do what? Yeah, the little Fox Alien guy. Perfect, thanks. So this guy is a 15 watt Fox Alien unit. So we're playing around with this. We're getting ready to take it through a testing protocol as well. But no current timeline for that right now.
Do you have any concerns with having the waste board directly behind the cutting material with the laser?
Mhm.
Because most laser cutters I've used, they always have a honeycomb or a grid metal base. so that when the laser cuts through, it cuts through without burning into anything below it.
Yep. Well, and again, that's why that's what we call it, call it a waste board, right?
I was thinking the same thing. Well, that's why it's called a waste board.
Yeah.
Well, I was concerned, I don't want a fire to get started behind the material you're cutting on. So that's why I was curious.
Well, and what you end up having is you probably know, Dustin, like the focal distance is really key to that too. So once it gets beyond a certain focal distance, its capacity to really create any damage is greatly reduced.
True.
Yeah. So, but you're spot on, man. I mean, that's part of why we got to test it so thoroughly, right? A 2.8 is a completely different beast than a 15. And we got to, what happens, we got one of the questions I got, okay, we got these gaps here, right? With a 15 watt, what happens if you clear cut something that you shoot straight through, right? Again, that focal distance should disperse all that pretty nicely, but are we going to have to tell people you need a secondary waste board in order to protect things, right? I don't know, but that's just something we got to go through.
Okay, sounds good.
Hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. But these the mounts are pretty cool too. Like we partnered with the University of Arkansas and an internship program, and a junior in the mechanical engineering program there is the one who created these mounts for us. He went through several dozen iterations to get it to where you can just swap your router in and out without ever having to change anything else about the setup. So he did a great job. But yeah,
I watched your video the other day on that, Patrick. Those looked really neat.
Yeah, they're really cool.
2 bolts, swap out from the laser to the router. That's perfect.
Yeah. We had a completely different. So when we did the pre-order a while ago, we had a completely different setup, and it ended up being a lot more expensive for that style of unit. It required fume extraction. It required somebody to have basically a separate sled entirely for their laser module, and then we got it all boiled down to just this. So we ended up sending a lot of money back in refunds because we were being able to go with a much lower cost option. It's just this little now. So this it's crazy looking at it now how simple it is, but it took months and months and months and months to develop these things.
Oh, yeah.
Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of printing.
For sure, Mike knows. Michael, how's it going?
Doing everything good except for my busted laptop.
Oh, dude, you haven't gotten that fixed yet?
Nah, the part comes in on Monday.
Okay, right on.
Good thing is I got extra laptops, The only thing is that one was 64 gigs of RAM, and then my other one is 32 gigs of RAM. So it's still fast, but not as fast,
Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions, guys?
Good.
Peter, I see you shaking your head over there. You got no questions?
Not yet. I really haven't put it together and started using it. So as soon as I get into all this, I'm going to have a ton of questions, I'm sure.
Well, that's what I'm here for. Just send me a message to support@makermade.com.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get to know each other real well.
Yeah, guys, and we are. I mean, what I'm hoping to do in the coming months really is find ways to partner with y'all. Well, let me just ask this first. How many of y'all are looking to do this and find ways to generate some sort of income, passive, primary income, whatever it may be, from this machine? Or any of y'all have plans for that? Peter, for sure. Dustin, yep. All right.
So, Lauren here. Me and my wife started a business last year.
Okay.
And this was my option to stop having to hand cut half the things. And it has changed the business drastically. We're looking to clear about 30,000, 35 this year using this machine as a catalyst. So, so we do a lot of door hangers, things like that. I don't know if this machine was designed to be a business model, but I said, you know what, like, works for me.
That's friggin' awesome. So we love that. I would love for you to reach out to Emily at makermade.com. working in social media for us right now, and we really, really, really want to rep the small businesses that are using this machine. Get your name out there so people can come find you. And obviously it works well for us because we can demonstrate to others who are thinking like you, could I use this to make a business, right? Scotty B's LEDs, he's clearing hundreds of thousands now, and he's got 3 machines set up. He's just absolutely killing it right now. So there's several businesses that have proven out with this tool. Yeah.
The laser is really our next step, just because right now the thickness, the minimum thickness of all of our cuts is an 1/8 inch, and the laser, takes it down to almost nothing of a thickness of a cut.
Right.
So that's really our next step, especially for real fine materials. So it's just kind of the next evolution of what we'd like to add.
Yeah, we're getting really good detail on this thing. You can see I slightly overscorched the bird's wing there, but in terms of a first attempt here, pretty good, right, for a little charcuterie. So, and that was
it's 100%. And even me, like I spend the extra money on the bits, but I've really got into, because I'm actually stationed out in Georgia from Arkansas, actually. So I miss the old homeland, but it's our next thing we're jumping into, which we're seeing a lot of traffic on, is of course military paraphernalia awards and stuff like that. So I've been getting into, Mike turned me on to Carbide Create, and I've been getting into V carving a lot more, a lot of stuff.
Get a free V-bit start setting in there.
So yeah, I've been doing a lot of that fun stuff. That's the dialing it in to get the perfect clean cuts has been fun and a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a really cool addition over time to see Maker Made really turn out their own version of a Carbide Create or something like that, to make it more of an all-inclusive system. I know that's something that takes years of software development to do so, but it'd be a cool step to make, and I'd love to be a part of that.
Yeah, we've kind of false started a few times on one specific component of it. So we are definitely looking into that. There's some open source systems out there that are available that we can fork off of and bundle under Makerverse. But the big one we're working on right now, some of y'all may have heard the term thrown around before. We're calling it Instapath. It's very similar to Image Trace in Illustrator, but specifically for CNC style path creation. So what the concept there is, you doodle something on a piece of paper, you snap a photo of it, and this tool has image recognition software baked in that allows it to convert those raster pixels into specific paths, right? So you can type something up on a Word document, and convert it over to Instapath, and it immediately creates that path file that you can convert into G-code. That's one of our first steps with it. But yes, totally agree. That needs to be something that we just bake straight into Makerverse. We have big ambitions for what that tool will be in the future. A lot more robust, baked in support, baked in instructions, baked in project purchase, baked in design software. All these things are where we want to take it. And ultimately, it'll be an app on your iPhone or your iPad or your Android as well. So you don't have to take a computer out into your workshop or your garage. So
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I have a Chromebook, and I've considered several times getting the I can't think of what it's called, the actual additional board to run a Chromebook. Yeah, right now I'm just running a simple, when I say a simple, like a 12-year-old laptop that I don't mind if it falls apart tomorrow. I just get another cheap one and run with it. But yeah, I was curious, is there anywhere on the website, because I know a lot of times on here, Mike and Casey and a lot of us have discussions about ways to improve the software, or ways that as an end user would make the software better, at least from our perspective. Something for the team to consider. That's all I'm saying. Is there a way on the website to drop that information or make those recommendations or comments?
Actually right there, on inside Makerverse, that you can actually reach out right there. It tells you about info right there inside Makerverse. You got to go into the settings right there.
Oh, okay. I probably hadn't looked that close at it.
Yeah, I would also though, Mike. So kind of where we're at right now, my recommendation here would be if you go to the website and under community on the top, there will be a forums button. We've just launched a new
Oh
forum.
yeah.
That's where I'd say put it. And Mike, I don't know if we have a location in there for Makerverse recommendations yet, but if we don't, if you'd be
I'll
willing,
make one.
yep, perfect.
I got you.
I'd love to get. We've been trying to capture that kind of feedback, and that's exactly where we want to get it.
For sure will.
We've got a bug. We got not a bug fix, but a buttons fix variant that we're about to start testing. We'll have that as a beta release that you all can work with as well. So it's going to make some of those really important buttons and selections like work offsets, machine home, things like that a lot easier to locate, so that there's no chance for, you know, starting your project off somewhere or not being certain where home is and things like that. So we're working through those right now. And then the next up is going to be likely a simplified calibration process where it doesn't require the same level of, you know, measuring out your chain length and everything that it currently does today, at least not for an edge calibration. So we're hoping that the calibration process now will take closer to like 10 minutes versus like 30 minutes.
I don't know. I've done it enough, and I'm sure Casey and Mike have done it enough. You can knock out a calibration pretty quick once you get used to it. It's just, I don't know. I consider it, you get a trade-off. You want to drop $10,000 for a machine that cuts 4x8 with little to no community behind it, or do you want to drop $1,000 and get the additional options? And even for me, like, our business is out of a garage, and there's no way I'd have room to put a full 10x12 machine in my garage to fit all that stuff. So
yeah, not only that, but a laser and a laser for that price, you know, for under 1,500, you can't beat that.
All right, it's just the options are there. I'd like to see how far the laser goes. I was curious, is there, at what level laser, because I haven't done the math or looked into it that much, would cut through a 1/4 inch material?
I didn't think the 15 watt would definitely do the trick.
Because that's ultimately, like, that's where my line starts, because a lot of that, like, 1/8 inch material is okay, but we have larger Cricut machines and stuff like that that can cut through a lot of that vinyl and stuff like that. Where it really comes down to is I need to be able to cut those 1/4 inch stencils. It's just really where the money's at. Because right now I'm spending, I mean, I'm comfortably, you know, I'm full-time military and doing a few hours every night or on the weekend and making this business happen. So the machine is definitely taken to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
But
Lauren, that's how the best businesses are started, brother.
yeah.
In your garage with, you know, simple maker tools, and sounds like you guys are doing a good job at it too.
Well, I just want to, I told my wife, I was like, if she stops the business, I'm not going to know to do with my time, because I'm kind of like invested now that it's, I got a machine to play with. So, but it's really just, I spend 10 minutes learning how to save 10 minutes right now. But it's still fun. I mean, we're cutting circles. It used to take me to do, like, I'm sure I've seen the door hangers. I know I've shown Casey and stuff. I probably should start sharing some of the stuff that I've done online. But I actually need to, you know what? Well, I don't know if I can share pictures on here. I'd share my latest one, but it's just been a lot of fun, just kind of creating things new and really making the money and realizing that, like, okay, I spent $15 total between a bit and materials and paint and everything for something that is selling in the local market for about $250.
Yeah, well, and we definitely want to start getting to, you know, Casey's selling tangible goods obviously on the marketplace right now. And, you know, if you want to start selling like both the files as well as either or both, the actual physical product on the website too, you know, that's where we want to get to as well. It's just not just make this a marketplace for downloading project files, but oh, well, I don't actually have an M2 and all I really want is that door hanger. So I'm just going to buy the door hanger directly through there. We want to make that as well. So we're really trying to make an concerted effort in the coming months to partner with this community in a really meaningful way, so that, you know, seeing what you all are doing with the kit is what inspires other people to make the commitment themselves. Right. And so the best way for us to demonstrate the value of this product is by advertising what everybody else is already doing with it, right? Throwing dollars behind your business and getting your name out there. And that ends up being a great benefit for us too. That's what we really want to get to, is where we're just advertising the snot out of all the businesses that are using the M2 and the rest of our products.
That's really awesome. I just really, and I know I'm just vouch for Casey and Mike. I really appreciate the, I tell people, like, if you're going to get into something like this, it's one thing to call somebody and then they get back to you 3 to 4 days later, or, you know, maybe get a little help, but between those two, even if it's just a power cord, they will get you through the problem.
Yeah, well, I appreciate hearing that. And, you know, Mike came on early this year because, you know, we kind of fit that bill. Actually, we weren't really as committed to support as we should be, given, you know, the nature of the product. And so we tripled our support overnight, and it's absolutely paid off. It's clear that that's what the community was asking for, and it was a super smart move. And obviously Mike is awesome, so it's great. And having folks like Casey in the community as well, who are making money on their own end, but also helping folks out, like, that's really what it's about.
And that's exactly what I was gonna bring up, because Casey is selling those things for 3D people that don't have 3D printers. It's the exact same thing he's doing. So you can sell those door hangers and whatever you want to sell on the site.
Yeah. And for the most part, like, I have zero problem. Like, also, like, I don't know if on that forum page or if there's a place, like, a lot of the G code or the designs, I've gotten, you know, years of experience with it. So I went from, unfortunately, I used to have a lot of the Illustrator, because I had a family member that had the license, so I got free licenses for Illustrator. But those years have passed, so now I'm back to Inkscape. So it's not quite as good, but unless I'm doing a 3D option, kind of like what Casey's kind of doing, where I'm developing layers, and then I'll do the SketchUp. But Inkscape does pretty well. I find it works okay for me. Just knowing attention to detail.
Right.
If that's something, but if that's something in the future that, like, MakerMate could do, like a partnership with Adobe or something like that, because Illustrator is such a great product, but it's so expensive.
Yeah, it's so expensive. And it's huge. Like, it just eats up all your memory on your computer.
Oh, 100%. That was the only thing about Inkscape when I finally found it, is like creating SVGs. Usually you had to pay money for that, or back when I was in, you know, early college, and you'd want to buy, our first years in the military, and you'd want to buy an image built, and they're going to charge you $100 just for the image. Or if you have the image, just to turn it into an SVG. And I realized, like, with 3 clicks of a button in Inkscape, I have my SVG, and I can scale it to whatever size I want.
Yeah,
So.
and traditional vectors aren't really designed for milling, right? The way that they understand paths versus infill is really, like, you end up getting double line versus, you know, for a CNC, you just want to cut straight up the middle.
Yeah.
And so it becomes very difficult to convert what otherwise is a very useful file into something that you can actually mill out. So if you download something on Etsy, you're going to have to do a massive amount of manipulation in order to really get that thing staged, typically for good consumption into Makerverse or any kind of G-code creation. So one thing that we really want to focus on is making sure that when we are generating those vectors, that it is purpose built for CNC instead of purpose built for graphic designers. Right. That's the trick.
There is a lot of functions in like Inkscape that are basically pointless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I don't care what color it is. It doesn't matter what color the circle is, or
I don't
color
need
the
a
square
gradient
is.
tool ever, right?
Like, I don't need any of that. And actually, like, the thickness of your circle can throw things off when you're looking at it. So all those things don't matter. But the ability to convert graphics and things, especially now that I'm getting into the V-carve, watching those play out. Sports memorabilia is starting to kick off like crazy. So making, like, the Cowboys, the simple Cowboys logo, or the Chiefs, or, you know, all those weird things, tailoring it to the customer. That's been a lot of fun. But yeah, it's a startup business, and I'm very cheap. So when I say I'm frugal, I guess probably the better term. But I would rather learn along the way and do something, because in my opinion, like the CNC, the M2, it does have a pretty decent learning curve
Mhm.
because of the algorithms. And so it's been fun to notice. But like, for example, on the Z code or the Z axis, right? I see, I don't know if how often you go on the Facebook page, but people are constantly struggling with the Z axis, and it doesn't matter how many times Casey like pops his video up. There's always someone that struggles with it. But just the realization that if you just send it back to home before you do another measurement, send it back to 0. Every time I've done it, I've gotten it, like even when I rebuild everything, I've like, did something stupid or whatever and was messing with the machine. It takes no more than five times and I'm back to dead on the money. Move 5 millimeters, it moves 5 millimeters.
Man, you absolutely. I feel like you just confirmed something. And Michael Silvera, I saw your note. Give me one sec. But yeah, I feel like what you just said there about the Z by sending it back to home absolutely confirms one of the fixes that we've got in this new beta version of Makerverse we're about to release. One of the things that I think we've realized is when in the code, there's a difference between like absolute and relative commands. Relative commands mean that like your understanding of where you are is relative to your work home, and absolute is purely relative to your machine home. And I think what was happening is we were setting commands in a way that was mixing those two up, especially on the Z-axis. And that was completely throwing off its understanding of its travel distance each time. So my hope is, and once this comes out, guys, so be on the lookout. We'll have a release in the owners group that says new beta version available. Would love for some of y'all to try it out, kick the tires on it, and give feedback to see if issues like that are resolved. And again, just continue chipping away at that learning curve a little bit till it becomes a bit more of an intuitive process. Right, because right now we all have our things, our checklist. I call it my pre-flight checklist. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Right, to make sure that I have a flawlessly executed project come out the other end. But yeah, that's great feedback.
Kind of leads into something else, because I've been really messing with that, right? Because when it comes down to it, playing with the feed and speeds, the depth of passes, what is the max speed within the programming that you can push the M2?
40 inches a minute.
Okay.
They're about.
Because I put it up to 45, but it wasn't moving at quite 45, and I was curious. Is that due to the motors or the programming?
No, it's actually due to physics. So you've got to give gravity time to catch up, right? So this is a competing pendulum system, right? And so, unlike a traditional suspended gantry system where the motor stops and then everything freezes, you're hanging from two chains, right? Which means that if it's making especially a lateral movement, it needs time to stop. And so the programming literally will slow it down as it comes to an end to give it that time to stop so that it can then make the next.
I've noticed.
You drive up or down, it actually accelerates because it doesn't matter. It's just in free fall at that point, right? So you can actually accelerate moving up and down, but you got to slow it down a little bit left and right. And so 40 inches a minute, you go beyond that and you can actually get some wobble that occurs as well.
Yeah, because I turned it up to 45 inches per minute. And of course, I could tell it wasn't quite running 45. But just playing with the feeds and speeds and times of just doing, less than an 1/8 inch of a pass at 40 or at attempted 45, it actually ran better doing fast, low passes than doing 1/4 inch cuts at 10 to 15 inches per minute. And it actually came out faster in a lot of the longer cuts doing it.
That's great.
And so I was curious I didn't know what the options are, because I'm running a little bit heavier of a sled. And like one of the things that I'm a big proponent of, I personally hate the bricks. You have all these refined software, all this refined kit, and you put bricks on the side of it. That's just a personal thing for me. So I went out and picked up a bunch of the 2.5 pound plates.
Yeah.
And cleaned it up.
We're looking for different solutions to replace the bricks. Again, the reason they're there is it comes down to the physics. So the heavier it is, the more that it's going to slow down quickly and you're going to be able to move, right? But if it's kind of feather light, then it can glide along and then you can get increased bit deflection. But we don't want to just ship weights in a box because that increases the price. The whole purpose of this unit is to make large format CNC accessible to everybody. So go source something heavy close to you, and then you're not going to be charged an extra $50 to ship a brick or some weight system in the box.
No, 100%.
Do what?
100%. It definitely makes sense from a business perspective, and I
Right.
fully get that. And when I looked at it, that was what changed my like. I get the business perspective, and if I was in your shoes, 100%, I wouldn't be. I'd be doing the exact same thing.
Right.
Let me ask you a
running.
question. Let me ask you a question. If it was something, if they would change the price and it would look a lot nicer, and the price was maybe $700 more, $500, but it looked a lot nicer, and it does the same thing, would you get it? If you
Obviously
before you
because I bought this machine over
but if you hadn't bought this machine,
no, because you're looking for effectiveness. What I have found, and the reason why I say this, what I have found is the weights are more effective. You get more dialed in. The way I have my weights mounted, like the bricks from before would still, because it's not the bricks hang. You see what I'm saying? So it affects your center of balance. With my weights, the way they're placed on my machine, it's a lot tighter of a compact setup, or a lot more compact setup. And I get the money side of it, and I don't disagree with it at all. From a business perspective, I would throw in the like 2 extra components that would be included to put the weights on, pre-drill the holes into the sled that are needed. I already have the pre-drill holes in the sled, and then submit to the client, hey, you can pick these up at your local Walmart or sports outlet for $2.50 a plate. Go pick up. I mean, yeah, instead of spending 75 cents a brick, I'm spending $2.50 or $1 a pound, right? So
can let me put in a challenge here to this group. We got some really intelligent folks here in this group. So one of the things that I've been thinking about to resolve this, in this new, I'm going to tilt it upside down so I can see. So we're upside down in the Z, right? So we've got this cavity here, right? This big cavity in here. Let me turn it around so it's a bit confusing, but you know what I'm talking about, right? What if we mailed in the box a watertight bag of some sort that is then strapped inside of that cavity, and when you get it, you just fill it with water, right? Creates that 10 pounds, whatever it is, it's strapped in there. Again, it's water, but it means we could ship the container, flexible container, and then you strap that in there, and then it's kind of hidden inside of that Z-axis. That's one idea I've been playing with to replace the bricks. Because I totally agree, man. It's a spaceship with bricks strapped to the side is what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
So
well, that's on one side. Like, unfortunately, there's a whole lot of customers that I've talked to that I've showed this to, or friends that I'm like, look, because I mean, being in the Army, there's a whole lot of people that are into woodworking, and I tell them like, look, these are options. Like, you ain't got to go drop 10K. And as soon as they see something with bricks strapped to the side of it, unfortunately, there's that perception, right? But I mean, and I'm always like, okay, you do your thing. I'll live over here in happiness, and you go your separate ways. But,
if you're worried about optics, then.
But my curiosity would be, what is going back to the original, what's the optimum weight that y'all have found? Like the ideal, if you could put it between 5 pounds of the
5 pounds is the optimal total. About 25 pounds is the optimal total sled weight.
Because I'm currently sitting at 30 pounds with the upgrade kit. So I could probably take 2 of my 2.5 pound plates off right now.
Yeah.
What I found that it actually runs a little better heavier from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. I believe it.
But it's only because when you're coming through that 3/4 inch, as you're coming down, obviously it's harder to deflect.
And there's other things that we can do to help with that. So one thing you can do is make sure that your bit, I don't have a bit in there, make sure that your bit is seated in your collet as deep as it'll go, given your project. So if I'm only cutting like a 1/4 inch, I'm going to sit my bit as far up in that chuck as I possibly can, because that's going to limit the length of my bit, which will limit deflection. Additionally, sit that router really shallow in the clamp so that only like a small portion of the router is poking out the bottom. Again, the longer that router is sticking out, the more it can move around, right? But if we're really choked up inside of that clamp, it's going to reduce deflection as well. So there's other ways you can synthesize that.
I 100% noticed that yesterday when I was playing with, I think I cut out like 10 circles over an hour, just constantly going back and forth, is that those little tips and tricks, I want to start having those on the website, because I don't really see them, because I realize like I'm running really high dollar Spectra bits, and they cut very clean. However, they're designed for a certain standoff. Like this is where you start your clamp, because this is where the hardness of that carbon is set up. But at the same token, I noticed the deflection as it's running, because I had my router set too low into the setup, and it was causing that little bit of give that you do get. And it's not a big deal. That's what sandpaper is for, right? But those little tips to get a cleaner cut, because to be fair, most cuts are done, and most of my cuts at least are done within 30 to 45 minutes, even the larger ones. And then the cleanup takes me the additional 15 to 20 minutes. I'm spending almost equal time sometimes on my cleanup. And yeah, so I'm basically timing my cuts, clean up between cut while the machine is cutting, just to maximize time. But those are excellent tips, but I didn't realize, I couldn't figure that out, why it was doing what it was doing while I was getting so much deflection, until actually yesterday.
Yeah. So anything with this machine, just a good way to think about it all is like, how easy is it to control a pencil holding it from the eraser, right?
Oh, 100%.
And that's your bit, right? And so if you can choke up anywhere in that system, you're going to get a much tighter squeeze, a much more buttery cut at the end of the day. Casey, you say you have to jump off. That's no worries. Thank you so much for hopping on. Dustin, I'm glad these tips are helping.
I wanted to pipe in there real quick.
And Case, or I'm sorry, Michael Silvera. All right, so you had a question here. You said, I'm a woodworking hobbyist and I have a request for your advice to have the M2. Cut out the paper plans I have for a boat build. Michael, you want to give us a little bit of insight into what you're trying to accomplish there? You're on mute. Okay, it's not working for you? Dang, okay. Well, go ahead, Michael, and shoot a note to Mike. What's the best email for him?
You can send me a message to mike@makermade.com.
Yep. Yeah, he'll get you set up. Right on. Okay, and then he also had a comment about sandbags with the MakerMade logo. Sounds better to fill. And with lead shot, you could fill it with anything, right? You could just basically say, just make sure these 2 bags or this 1 bag weighs 10 pounds and you're good to go, right? So I say that, and I wish I had said this before Casey hopped off, but we need somebody to test that out, right? We need somebody to put that through its paces, sit it inside the Z-axis. I mean, you could use something as simple as a double bag Ziploc bag and try it out. And then we can prove it out and we can source the bag after that point, and then that replaces brick straps entirely. I don't know, but then it's all held in there. So
maybe like a little bean bag.
Basically it, right?
Basically it. With
so right now, you're
Yeah.
looking for 25 pounds. How much does the sled weigh empty with just a router? The average router, so rigid or Bosch or something like that.
I think this one now weighs like 17. I want to say 17, close to 17 or 18. It's slightly heavier than the 2020 model because it's steel instead of aluminum. But the old one was 15 pounds, and this one I think is like 2.5 pounds more. So I think it's like 17. But again, that depends also if you got the rigid or if you got the DeWalt. With the DeWalt, it's close, like 60, it's on the 16, 17 pound side. With the rigid, it's closer to the 18 pound side. Is my understanding.
I'm gonna have to try that out, because in my head, when you were saying water, I was like, there's no way water is going to meet that capacity. just knowing the weight of water is only 7 pounds per gallon, right? So there's no way it'll meet that
Oh.
capacity.
Good to know.
But that's just fuel logistics and things. So like fuel's 6 pounds, water's about 7 pounds. But with that in mind, what I could probably test it, because a lot of, like, when you're thinking of a container, that new, like those polymer containers you can get that are like real flexible, would look really good and clean in the setup. But you could probably look at, I can see if I could go like a local hardware store and buy just the lead pellets, something like that.
Yeah.
Could probably get us to the, because you're looking really for about 10 pounds, right? So
right.
Could you
Let's
turn,
here's the kicker on that. So I'm gonna take this guy down, and I want to we can kind of play out this theory a little bit together. All right. So the challenge here, right, is the bricks work really well again because they sit close. They sit close to the sled. Now, and
Right.
here one of the challenges, they do sit a little low, so they have a tendency to kind of want to, again, if we're thinking about
Yeah, right.
pull the sled up. And so again, the more you hang something up here, up high, versus flush to the sled, the more it's going to have a tendency to want to lift like that, especially if you get to the bottom of your material and you're not putting a skirt below it, right? So the ideal weight system would be one that's maybe like a half circle around the sled like that, or, you know, it could be, I wouldn't put it above, but yeah, somewhere like that hangs half circled around the sled, and that's going to really keep that thing locked in place really well.
Well, that's where I was mentioning, if you had that polymer that's like a flexible, I don't know, you see it on like Shark Tank, it's like a flexible polymer, so it goes back to its shape, but designing it to where they would almost fit right along the bottom there, but over the spot where the dust collection is. I think there's a lot of options to play there.
Yeah.
But that's what I was getting to. We basically need to figure out something that gets us 10 pounds. That's what you need, is about 10 pounds.
Yeah, 10
weight.
pounds that someone can easily source at their home, so we don't have to ship it, but we can give them a container that attaches nicely and does the thing.
Now that gives me something to run with and play with, that a pretty somewhat definitive measurement. So
Right on.
So just to verify, if you have a couple of containers on either side of the sled, that equals your total weight up to 25 pounds. You can put your lead shot or whatever there. That would be better than having the bricks hang off the bottom. It'd be
Yes.
more balanced.
Yeah. So if
Okay.
if I had, so again, and you'd only need to make it, you know, each brick is only 5 pounds, right? So yes, having the fact that these bricks are hanging this far down, it's not bad. Like, and again, you know, you look at the old Maslow, some of the real salty vets that use the old Maslow, they've got mounted somewhere around here. They've got those, like, you know, 5 pound weights just sitting up here. So it's not a problem. But yes, the ideal state would be, yeah, something that's like sitting flush along the sled here to maybe down here, and 5 pounds on this side, or 5 to 7 pounds on this side, 5 to 7 pounds on this side. Yeah, mounted flush to that sled. And then you get rid of the straps completely, or the bricks completely. That would be the ideal state for sure.
So if we had
Mike,
access.
can you turn me on sharing real quick?
Sorry, keep going, Dustin.
I was going to say, so if I could get access to a 3D printer, I was thinking reusing those screw holes that you have for the ring mount on either side, build some sort of pocket or something like that you can put in there, put your lead shot in that, and then you can anchor them through those screws.
Yeah, you could do that. The other place you could mount it is, so I think there should be sufficient room in the 2020 extrusion. You've still got these holes here, right? So these two will always be exposed. So that's a mounting point you could utilize, or you could use T-slots and just mount to the side or top here as well.
That would be a
right?
good place, yeah.
T-nuts would work really well too.
Because I have the 2021 version, so I don't know if I've got those holes or not.
You do.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is, so absolutely. This is really just a thought experiment. There's not a lot to it. It's pretty straightforward. It's basic physics, right? It's the weight low down, to the sled on either side balanced. But you got to work around the existing components that exist there. And then if y'all did, if somebody made something like that, again, like Casey made for the 2020 unit, he made a really nice new snorkel dust collection that people freaking love. We support that all day. Anything that's an ancillary product to this unit, if you all want to sell it, find a way that's better than what we have right now and say, hey, bricks work, but if you want something that's a lot more attractive on your rig for when you're showing people, I have this solution that I sell in the marketplace. We will thumbs up support that all day. And if it's really good, I mean, there's a chance we take it a step further and we integrate it fully into our kit and find a way to partner on that. So we're super into this community finding better solutions. I mean, that's literally how we got started, right? We were part of the community from Maslow. So yeah, lots of fun. Oh, and actually, like our biggest collaboration we've ever done is with one of the original Maslow users. His name's Larry. He's the one who developed the do board. So yeah, he's engaged with us on every do board sale we have. So that's the best way for us to iterate and improve the product.
I would suggest that you do maybe a 5 or 10 minute video on your channel on YouTube, just discussing the whole deflection part that you were just talking about a few minutes ago. Your description of trying to write from the eraser point of a pencil was perfect to show me exactly what I need to fix for any of that deflection problem.
Good. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great call. I've heard somebody else say it was helpful too. So that's great. I'll plan to put something up there like that. What I really want to get to, Dustin, is a series of, again, what I call those pre-flight checks, right? What are the things that you can do that absolutely, from making sure you're tabbing right on easel all the way to making sure that you're not going to run into any, stray cut lines that are going to cause your sled to lift, to making sure you're going to get minimum bit deflection, right? All those different types of things. So we definitely could use something like that. So yeah, Michael's giving a thumbs up too there. Yeah, there's nothing worse than getting halfway through a project on a 3/4 inch sheet of ply and going, oh my God, this just happened.
I did that with some solid wood oak on one of my first tests. I got a lot of deflection on it. I knew it was learning, that's just how it works. But having that video, that probably would have woken me up long before I did that first mistake.
Okay. Yeah, I'll add that to our team list. I'll run through a video on what I do to reduce deflection. Cool.
I'll say anybody that's new, that's about to do this or is in the process of it, take the longest time you possibly can working through each step for building that frame and then calibration. I think I did it over the course of 3 days, and the end result is worth it. Absolutely. I mean, there's still learning processes for me, but I'm still getting accurate home zero positions every single time I'm working through each project.
Heck yeah. That's awesome to hear, Dustin. Yeah, and when it comes to building the frame, the thing that I like to say is absolutely most critical is making sure that it is first and foremost square to itself. And then you worry second, after it's square to itself, worry about getting the whole system level to the ground. Square first, level second.
Mm-hmm.
If you do those things in that order, you will get likely something very similar to the experience Dustin's having. If you try to just level it immediately and then not worry about squareness, you're going to get some real wonky lines forever. So that's something I always do. And then you're guaranteed as well. The other great thing about that is when you mount a work surface and you want to make sure you get a real straight line across, you just take a level and set it on top, get it right, and then mount it in and you're good to go. You're always going to get a straight line. So cool. Any other thoughts, questions, insights? Overshare. Hey, one thing I'll ask y'all, overshare on everything. Like, we love hearing what y'all are up to, and we are always looking for ways that we can help rep y'all and collaborate. Your all success is absolutely going to be our success. So Like that is our business model day in, day out. So do not be shy to reach out and say, hey, I've been doing this. What do you all think? Can we put it on the marketplace? You want to advertise around, like anything you all are doing, like, let's do it. Let's partner. Let's find ways to help each other out.
So I think I'm I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go for it, Lauren.
I was gonna let you know, like I was taking a look here, because it was going through my head. I think I'm gonna give it a shot. It's a little expensive for Amazon at $25 a bag, but trying 2 5-pound lead shot weight bags from scuba diving. They're small. They're about, I don't know, about that big. So it'd be worth, I think I want to give it a shot just to see if it works. I never considered it until we had this discussion, but that's even a more compact version. And it's just a nylon bag you could dump into any container,
Somebody had mentioned those earlier, and I wasn't familiar with them until I looked them up. But yeah, that would be a great option. Again, one of the other key issues that would come about with water, right, is again, if you're fighting gravity and momentum, water can slosh, right? So if you're not fully packed in there, right, so that's why something like lead would work a lot better.
Right. I would have to probably partner with Casey to see if he could build a container, like specific containers of volume, using 3D printing, because that's obviously gonna be the easier way to go about it to mount that container. Because I think there's an option there to keep it really clean, and developing those prototypes. But I think lead shot is definitely our only way of getting 10 pounds below the sled or on the bottom side of the sled mounted easily. But yeah, just finding a place that it costs less than $25 for but that's $5 a pound of lead. That's kind of expensive.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I would be, honestly, like it's going to make a better advertisement for us too, if we can show it with, with something different. That'd be, how cool would that be, right? Is if we did an advertisement, somebody comes up with an idea like this that you can sell in the marketplace. We use that as an add-on, and we even say like using one of our community upgrades, right? Like that would be so cool. I'd love seeing it. And it would just be a better advertisement, right? Get rid of that whole, what the hell is the CNC with bricks on it thing?
Yeah. I mean, there's just some people that are just not gonna understand it.
Yeah.
But
Michael, that looks great. Yeah, for sure. You're right, Lauren, like 100%. There's people who don't understand it, and there's people who worry about like, well, you're taking the craftsmanship out of things. And my response is like, I grew up woodworking. Like I went to school, and our school, my dad had a workshop in our backyard, and how far back you want to take that? Does it go back to table saws? Does it go back to hand planes? And I just like to think of it as like, what does this mean I can do now that I couldn't do before? Not what does this mean I don't need to do now? Right?
Oh, trust me, there's many times I've looked back at some of the projects we've sold in our initial phase of starting the company, and I'm like, that dinosaur took me 3 hours to cut out. And if I'd had this, it would have taken me about 15 minutes.
Right. And I could have been doing something else while I was cutting it out.
Yeah. So there's many times I don't subscribe to that. At the end of the day, like there's still a lot of craftsmanship, and at the end of the day, we're all makers trying to make something new and different. I really just appreciate the ability, and people don't want to, like, I don't experience it a lot where people just want to make money off one another. It's hey, this is what I'm doing. It's working for me. There's plenty of people willing to pay the money that don't want to put the effort in. But when it comes to the actual makers themselves, everyone willing to take part, and that's pretty awesome.
Heck yeah, love it. Michael, your setup looks good. I thought based on what you were talking about, you were way far away from being completely set up. That's a great looking frame you got there.
Let's see if my microphone's working now.
It is.
Oh, good. I was trying to ask you for your advice. You said I had to build it square. I was trying to square everything up as I was doing construction. I had to use the original Maslow frame because I tried using your wall frame, and I have an electrical panel back there that
Gotcha.
made it so I wouldn't fit.
Gotcha.
And plus, to be able to move it, because I have a slant in my garage driveway here, so water runs down to the street. So I have to shim everything up in this. In this formation.
Yeah, which is fine. Absolutely fine. Again, But the point is that getting it level, shimming it up should be the last thing that you do, right? You should have
Okay.
a buttoned up, solid, perfectly as you can, square frame, and then worry about leveling it after that, right?
I tried squaring as much as I could, but what are some points in this frame that you would think would be needing to be double checked?
You know, with that one, because it's not working with a lot of right angles. You know, that one's a bit more simple in that sense. I'm trying to think through that build out.
Or what? I used the speed square on every corner to make sure everything was squared off.
Is if you're using the speed square on all your right angles, you're making sure that the boards you purchased, the 2x4s you purchased, are true, and there's not a lot of warp to them or anything like that, then you're going to be spot on with that frame.
I got a feeling I might have wood that's a little too green.
Okay.
I could not find because of the lumber shortage.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't find anything that wasn't that was straight, that wasn't that didn't have some residual moisture in it.
Mm-hmm. So
is that going to make it harder for me to keep my settings?
You know, one way you can check is just check, you know, put a level on top of your wasteboard, put a level on top of your top beam, make sure that they're the same, right? That's the most important one.
When I shim it up, that's what I have. The bubble is in the middle on both of them.
Keep an eye on that. And then on occasion, take your sled off your work surface or hang it from your top beam, and then take that one of those longer, you know, those 4-foot levels, drag it across your wasteboard to make sure everything that you're not getting a lot of warp in there, a lot of flex on the work surface. Because one of the biggest ways that not being true shows itself in the end project is you get varying depths in your, especially like at a V-bit cut. If you're trying to do some sort of engraving passing, it'll be really shallow on one end and a lot deeper on the other end. So just keeping your eye down low and seeing, okay, is there any light coming through anywhere along this way underneath my wasteboard? If you see that, just get behind there and just put another 2x4, just nail another 2x4 in there or something to really prop it up and make it really rigid again. And as long as at that point, as long as your top beam and your wasteboard are even or parallel to one another and your wasteboard is smooth all the way across, you should be good.
I was initially going to use the plans that you gave me, and I tried doing the easel type plan to try to see if I can make it well more square. I had to settle with this build here, so
yeah,
I had to be able to move it around, and I have a person who was telling me I can't attach it to the wall. I have to be able to turn it over toward that direction and have it not obscure the wall, so that
you can still butt it up against the wall, right? You can do something to still butt it up against the wall. The other thing that you can do, so when I had that style frame, I think I had one center foot in the middle of the frame as well, and then I ran another quote top beam, but a bottom beam across the bottom. So one of the things that frame can actually be susceptible to is no matter how close you measure to get everything square, like there's going to be variance in your floor too, and that means your feet won't sit quite right. But the way to get around that is to essentially create like, that's why we do like these floating legs like this instead, because that helps make sure that you're not just resting all of the weight on these little bitty points right here. And there's going to be guaranteed variance in that floor, right? So what I ended up doing is creating like a footrest for it on the bottom using a solid piece that goes all the way across. What that does is it helps make sure that your wasteboard stays true, and it also makes sure that you're not dependent on 2 to 3 very, very tiny points to all be exactly level.
All right. What is recommendation for casters on the base. Someone was saying that they could do casters on this base, on this frame to move it around in the
Casters
shop.
are really popular. And casters are a good idea because it helps eliminate that issue as well. There's no real recommendation there. I would just
from my favorite store, which has a 300-pound capacity, but it also has on one side the ability to shim and level. But I don't know if it's going to work. I still have to figure out how to put it on board.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as long as your locking mechanism on your caster is gonna do a good job, right? Because you don't want it to. What you can have is that frame can kind of shimmy a little bit if you're on casters and they're not particularly robust. So I would just be cautious about that. It's going to amplify bit deflection and can cause issues, but it can also help with that, making sure that you're level and you're seated properly on the floor as well. So the Maslow Garden, again, is going to be an excellent resource for that particular frame. There's
Maslow.
Tons of
Say that again. Maslow Garden.
The Maslow Garden. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I've been perusing it for the last few years.
Yeah.
I finally settled on the M2 because, well, it looked better than the East Bay one.
Yeah, the East Bay one is essentially a continuation of the original Maslow. I think they've got an updated board now as well. But I think they even use our instructions. I think they ship our instructions. So, yeah, but it's a great frame. Like, it's tried and true, right? And there's going to be a ton of resources in there around it. I'm sure if you typed in casters on there, you would find 1,001 recommendations, right? You know, those guys like B on there are just, you know, salty old vets who just know this machine in and out better than anybody. They're real smart. Plus, you know, if you put it on casters, then you might as well use it for, you know, material storage as well, because then you've got access to the back, and it becomes a really convenient place to store wood.
I'm gonna need that part of it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna spend the next 3 days off. I got 3 days off from work, so I'm gonna be spending and calibrating the machine, get it going. The build was just done this last weekend when I had it off.
Congrats, man.
So
what are you gonna make?
I've had this since May when I got it for my birthday. So
nice.
I have just received your laser kit. The only thing I found out is with the laser, the screws are just a little bit too short for me to fit it in there.
Wait, do you have a 71 millimeter? You have the 71 millimeter clamp.
I have a 71 millimeter clamp, but the screws, when I undo them and put the fitting inside there, they are just a little too short. So I have to go to a hardware store and find some that are a little longer so I can clamp it on.
Did you use the screws that came in the kit?
Yeah.
In the laser kit?
Oh, there's ones in the laser kit that do that patch?
Yes. So your laser kit will have, where is it? It's just here. It'll have a baggie that has some black bolts in it. So we did that, right? That was the one adjustment we had to make for the 71, is in order for this to sit exactly, for the laser beam to hit exactly where the router bit was hitting, we had to sit this thing up. We had to have a longer bolt here. So we actually sourced longer bolts that came in your kit. So I'll put
longer bolts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got to search around for them because
they should have come in the baggie.
All right. I see a pair of bolts that look like they might work.
Wham bam. There you go. It should be black. Yep.
So I'll give that a try and see how it works out.
Cool. Yep. Sweet.
I was hoping that with the other base, since I'd already made the other frame, I was going to make a half frame like your partner has in his background of his videos.
Yep.
Turn that into the laser.
Would absolutely love to see you do that. I've been trying to get that frame built. So essentially what we're doing is, you know, these, we're calling them canvases now. So
Well,
you've got,
I had a half canvas and I was
Right.
going to set that up, but then you switched to this idea and I would go, oh, well, I just took the particle board and I just zipped it on the here to create more waste board on this thing.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, if you still want to try that half stack version, we would love to see it. So I just need to get, so I've got one in my shop too. I've got the full size one in my shop at home, and then I've got the half stack size one. I'm just trying to work through the chain slack management on it to make sure that it's not too excessive. But we have a lot of customers who want to do what essentially would be like a 4x4 foot variant or a 2x4 foot only sheet variant, because again, like not everybody has a need to use a full 4x8 foot sheet apply, but even a 2x4 foot sheet would give you a lot more capabilities than you can get with like an X carve.
No, I might be harassing you for another one of these kits without the Z axis so I can make a 4-foot canvas off the wall.
Well,
That-
and
For the laser, working on my hobby planes, cutting out the foam board for the hobby planes.
oh yeah, so do you think then, we've been playing around with this idea, do you think that a Z axis free kit that is only the laser module?
I was looking for a used Maslow that was like one of the base ones from when Barr first set them out.
Mhm.
I was going to set that up with the laser.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people trying to upgrade to the newer models.
because then you're just, you know, you're creating templates,
Mhm.
you're creating all kinds of useful stuff that people who might not want to, who might not need to be actually milling something, could just be engraving at 4x8 feet. I mean, that's a pretty potent value
This
proposition, because then you're
goes
talking about like a
through-
$1,200 laser engraver.
This would go right through Adam's foam board without any trouble.
There you go. So if you want to try it, Michael, if you want to try, like, we'd love to see what you do with that. I mean, that would be an enormous help for us.
Well,
Part of our issues is we got more opportunity than we know what to do with in terms of like directions to go with it, right?
so I was going to I have a lot of materials left for the 4x4 foot canvas piece. I just wanted to figure out buying it cafeteria style without the Z axis. Would you sell it that way? Like parts?
So we are going to get back to selling the components.
Mhm.
The trick is, it's obviously we build in a ton of efficiency and cost savings by kitting, right?
Yeah.
And so we get a lot of requests from folks for like, hey, I don't want the 12-foot chains. I want or 11-foot chains. I want the 15-foot. All right. I don't want the 71 when I buy the 91. Can't you just discount me and give me the 91? It's like there's just a lot more legwork. Typically what we do in that case is we throw the 91 in there and we just like give a discount or something, because it's more time
Wait,
and money.
you're on sale again, and this time maybe I'll take advantage of a discount instead of paying full price like I've been.
If you're, yeah, hey, and if you're going to do something like that, like we'd hook you up, man. If you can commit to doing something like that and testing something out that's
I
valuable.
want to set up a 4-foot canvas just for the laser.
Okay.
And I kind of want to set it up like Drew has it.
Yeah. Okay. So draft it up, show us what you would do, and then email Mike,
Mhm.
get with him and tell, and Mike will pass it through the grapevine, or you can come back, sit through here as well. And we'll figure out something we can do, because that's really valuable to us. And so if you're going to go take that on, we'd love to support through, discounted product or the like. So yeah, that'd be great.
Appreciate the work.
Yeah.
I'll probably get in with you next Thursday after I finish calibrating this if I find any problems, and ask for your help.
Sweet. Sounds
You have a
great.
good one.
Yeah. Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Mike.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I'm checking out. Yep. Thank you all so much for joining. Peter, Lauren, Dustin, any other questions? Are you good?
Not for me. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you
I
next
really
week.
appreciate it. I'll be reaching out. I'll try to do it by the end of the day. Reach out to Emily at Maker Made and
Heck
pass
yeah.
along information and see if I can get more involved with the team.
Sounds good. But I tell her I want to do a maker story on y'all.
Okay. All right.
Sweet.
It's
right,
awesome to meet you, Patrick.
You too, Lauren. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.